Let's talk about neighbors, specifically Canada and the United States. These two countries share more than just a border, they share a deep, intertwined history and economy. Instead of borrowing sugar, these neighbors trade trillions of dollars and share the world's longest undefended border. This relationship is built on mutual trust and cooperation. But in March 2025, President Trump threatened a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, shaking up the relationship. This move sent shockwaves through both economies. Canada, led by Prime Minister Trudeau, didn't just apologize and move on. They hit back with their own tariffs, signaling that they were ready to defend their economic interests. But the real drama came from British Columbia, the province that controls the land route to Alaska. This route is crucial for the movement of goods and people. Suddenly, geography became a political weapon. The strategic importance of the Alaska Highway was thrust into the spotlight. Trump's America First policy put Canada on the defensive, and the stage was set for a showdown. Both sides were gearing up for a battle of wills. This wasn't just about politicians, it was about the deep, practical ties between the two countries. Families, businesses, and communities were all affected. The Alaska Highway, a symbol of cooperation, became a point of leverage. Its significance in this dispute could not be overstated. BC's Premier David Eby saw an opportunity. If the US made it expensive for Canadian goods to go south, maybe Canada should make it expensive for American goods to go north. This was a bold move. The friendly neighborhood barbecue was over. Now it was a full-blown dispute. The atmosphere was tense and the stakes were high. The fight wasn't in Ottawa but on the west coast, with BC holding a powerful card. The province's strategic position gave it significant influence. The Alaska Highway, once a lifeline, was now a bargaining chip. Its control could shift the balance of power in this economic standoff. This was no longer just a trade spat, it was a battle of economic pressure points. Each side was looking for leverage to gain the upper hand. The world watched as two close allies squared off, each ready to defend their interests. The international community was keenly observing every move. The question, who would blink first? The outcome of this standoff would have lasting implications. The answer would shape the future of North American trade. The stakes were incredibly high for both nations, and for the first time in decades, the border felt a little less friendly. The once seamless connection between the two countries was now strained. Enter David Eby, Premier of British Columbia, a leader known for his calm resolve and willingness to take bold action when the stakes are high. This time, he was ready to fight fire with fire, determined to defend his province's interests no matter the cost. On March 6, 2025, Eby announced Bill 7, a landmark piece of legislation giving BC the power to impose tolls on commercial trucks heading to Alaska, a move that sent shockwaves through the region. This was a direct response to Trump's tariffs, a targeted move to pressure Alaska's politicians and send a message to Washington. But Eby didn't stop there. He ordered all provincial agencies to immediately stop buying American products, cutting off millions in cross-border business. And in a highly visible move, he pulled U.S. alcohol from government liquor stores, leaving shelves conspicuously empty. The message was clear: this dispute was personal, and Alaska would feel the consequences in their daily lives. Alaska relies on BC's highways for critical goods, fresh produce, oil industry supplies, and countless other essentials that keep the state running. By threatening tolls, Eby put a chokehold on Alaska's supply chain, risking shortages and delays that could ripple through communities. Bill 7 gave BC sweeping powers to impose tolls at any moment, keeping the U.S. guessing and on edge about what might come next. Eby framed it as a defensive measure to protect Canadian jobs and industries, not to punish everyday Alaskans caught in the crossfire. The move was bold, calculated, and left the door open for further escalation if the situation demanded it. It wasn't war, but it was a serious warning, a signal that BC was prepared to stand its ground. Alaska's lifeline was now in BC's hands, and the stakes had never been higher for both sides of the border. The pressure was on, and the world was watching as tensions mounted between neighbors. Canada's provinces were ready to play hardball, united in their resolve to defend their interests on the global stage. In Alaska, BC's toll threat landed hard. The Alaska Trucking Association warned that tolls would spike transport costs, hitting families and businesses. While most goods arrive by sea, the highway delivers the essentials: fresh food, urgent supplies, oil equipment. State Senator Robert Myers, a trucker himself, called the tolls a major disruption. Governor Mike Dunleavy urged calm, but Alaskans felt like pawns in a bigger game. Alaska's unique geography means its economy depends on Canadian goodwill. The toll threat strained that relationship, making Alaskans realize just how vulnerable they were. America first suddenly meant Alaska's groceries might come last. On the border, real people felt the fallout. In towns like Skagway, Alaska, and Whitehorse, Yukon, the border is a lifeline, not a barrier. But the dispute chilled cross-border visits and business. Yukon residents started boycotting Skagway, hurting local shops and tourism. Skagway businesses saw bookings drop as Canadians stayed away. Some locals tried to mend fences, handing out Canadian flags and "Friendship Beyond Borders" stickers. The message: the fight was political, not personal, but the damage was real. Trade wars threatened to unravel decades of community ties. The border, once a symbol of friendship, now felt like a dividing line. Local frustration grew as families and businesses paid the price for decisions made far away. The human cost of political posturing was impossible to ignore. Alaska struck back, this time targeting BC's cruise ship industry, a vital artery for the province's economy and a symbol of its global connections. Senator Dan Sullivan threatened to push for a permanent exemption to the Passenger Vessel Services Act, a move that would rewrite the rules for cruise ships traveling between the US and Canada. If successful, cruise ships could skip BC ports entirely, bypassing the province and costing it billions in tourism revenue, jobs, and local business opportunities that depend on the steady flow of visitors. The threat was real. A similar exemption happened during the pandemic, leaving terminals empty and businesses struggling to survive as the lifeblood of tourism dried up almost overnight. Now both sides had powerful levers at their disposal, BC with its truck tolls and Alaska with its cruise ships, each capable of inflicting economic pain on the other. The dispute became a high-stakes game of economic chicken, with leaders on both sides weighing their next moves carefully. The economies of BC and Alaska were more intertwined than ever, their fortunes rising and falling together as trade and tourism flowed across the border. Laws and geography created pressure points but also revealed a deep codependence. Neither side could easily afford to go it alone. The cruise ship threat reminded BC that its tourism windfall was never guaranteed, and that prosperity could vanish with a single policy change. Each side waited for the other to blink, with livelihoods, families, and entire communities hanging in the balance. The chess match was on, and the stakes were higher than ever, with every move scrutinized by those whose futures depended on the outcome. Retaliation could come from anywhere, at any time, as both sides searched for leverage. The next move could change everything, reshaping the relationship between BC and Alaska for years to come. BC wasn't alone. Other provinces joined the fight. Ontario, led by Premier Doug Ford, slapped a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the US. The message: if you tax our steel, we'll tax your power. In the Yukon, Premier Ranj Pillai cut off US liquor and limited American access to government contracts. Yukon residents suggested everything from highway tolls to banning Trump Jr. from hunting trips. Canadian provinces showed surprising unity, using their economic power to push back. Foreign policy is usually Ottawa's job, but the provinces weren't waiting. They defended their industries and sent a clear signal. This was a Canadian fight. The US now faced not just Ottawa, but a coalition of determined provinces. The trade dispute had become a national cause. Canada's response was coordinated, creative, and relentless. The pressure on Washington was mounting. By September 2025, tensions cooled, but threats remained. The tolls and cruise ship bans hadn't happened yet. The real solution had to come from Washington and Ottawa. Diplomacy, not escalation, was the only way forward. Leaders like Eby and Sullivan had made their point. Now, it was time to negotiate. The crisis revealed how deeply Canada and the US depend on each other. Provinces and states proved they could shape international disputes. Trade isn't just numbers, it's people, communities, and trust. The hope? Both countries choose cooperation over conflict because in the end, good neighbors are worth fighting for and worth making peace with.